This is the lesson recap of our Birth of the New South lesson as part of our Reconstruction unit. Changes in farming in the New South. So planters had plantation, but no one wanted to pick cotton. Essentially, the plantation owners had to replace slavery, and there was two ways they did this. One was with sharecropping, where a family would move to a plantation, raise a crop, and would be compensated with housing and 1/3 of that crop. The other was tenant farming, where tenant farmers would pay rent to farm on a plantation owner's farmland. Tenant farmers did better than sharecroppers. Sharecroppers were very much dependent under the thumb of the plantation owners. Sharecropping is synonymous with dependence and poverty. The South's economy does change. Pre-Civil War, 90% of cotton was picked by slaves. Post-Civil War, that was up to 40% picked by white tenant farmers. Cotton picking, most harvesting and most farming is very arduous, backbreaking work. So it makes sense that they needed slaves to do it and then needed people to be subservient to make that work. Cash crops, such as tobacco, sugar, and cotton, are valued over food crops. Rural poverty becomes entrenched and the merchant class rises. Rails are repaired and southern cities start to grow. Industrialization is limited. It was limited to only the early, less profitable stages of production. The North was much more advanced in industrialization than the South was. We talk about funding Reconstruction. Infrastructure, important vocabulary word. It's public property and services a society uses today. It would be telephone wires, it would be street lights, it would be streets, roads, railroad tracks, any kind of harbor structures that let ports operate. It's anything at all that we as a society use together. The South's infrastructure was essentially destroyed in the Civil War. Taxes were raised in the southern states to finance fixing it. The governments of the southern states oftentimes had Republicans in charge, and they made some advancements. They improved education, but they taxed at a level that was higher than before, still not as high as the northern states, but they did tax higher than what was before, creating even more resentment towards the Republican Party. And you get corruption, where we're going to end off here. Know that corruption was an American phenomenon at this time. It was not a northern or southern thing. There were corrupt governments everywhere. In fact, no government in the South was anywhere near as corrupt as the New York Democratic Party machine led by boss William Marcy Tweed. He could have taught them a lot about how to be corrupt. Having said that, there were schemers in the South: white, black, Republicans, Democrats, Southerners, carpetbaggers, scalawags. They all had elements of corruption. As far as President Grant, he personally was not corrupt. His administration was. The Credit Mobilier scandal, involving skimming money off the building of the Transcontinental Railroad, tarnished the Grant administration, and he and his administration became synonymous with corruption, as did Reconstruction. Even though there was about as much corruption, and in a lot of cases less, than in the North, Reconstruction is basically painted with that brush of, oh, this is corruption, oh, this is graft, and it helps lead to the downfall of Reconstruction, which we'll get into in our next lesson.